My parents made me apologize to my narcissistic aunt to keep family harmony. Family gatherings have always been a delicate balancing act for me. In most families, these events are opportunities to bond, catch up, and create happy memories. But in mine, they're more like navigating a minefield, especially when my Aunt Linda is involved. Linda is the kind of person who thrives on chaos, the textbook definition of a narcissist. Everything has to be about her. If it isn't, she'll find a way to shift the spotlight, even if it means causing a scene. Compliments must be showered on her, and if anyone dares challenge her opinions or behavior, you can count on a dramatic meltdown. I learned early on that Aunt Linda operates on her own set of rules, and for some reason, everyone else in the family just lets her. Growing up, I never fully understood why my parents insisted we cater to her whims. Whenever she insulted me, made passive-aggressive comments about my choices, or interrupted important moments to talk about her latest accomplishments, my parents would shrug it off. "That's just how Linda is," they'd say, like it was some kind of cosmic rule we all had to accept. "Don't rock the boat, we're family and family sticks together." But as I got older, it became harder to tolerate. There's only so much you can excuse before you start asking yourself, why am I the one who has to keep quiet? Why isn't anyone holding her accountable? The breaking point came last month, at my younger brother's birthday party. It was supposed to be a simple, happy celebration. We'd planned a barbecue in my parents' backyard with close family and friends. Everyone was in good spirits, until Linda arrived, late as always, with her signature flair for drama. Linda swept into the backyard like she was walking a red carpet, dressed in a bright red outfit that screamed, "Look at me!" and carrying a gift that was ostentatiously wrapped. She made sure everyone noticed her arrival. The moment she walked in, she interrupted the conversation my brother was having with some friends to announce, "Well, I'm here. The party can start now." I rolled my eyes and kept quiet, already anticipating the chaos that usually followed. Her. My brother, bless him, gave her a polite nod and went back to his conversation. But Linda wasn't having it. She moved in closer, tapping him on the shoulder and saying loudly, "Aren't you going to open my gift first? I went to a lot of trouble to find something just perfect for you." My brother, trying to be gracious, said he'd open all the gifts after dinner. That wasn't good enough for Linda. She huffed, crossed her arms, and muttered something about ungrateful kids these days, before stalking off to commandeer a chair at the center of the patio. From that moment on, it was like the party had shifted into a Linda-centric event. She spent the next hour talking loudly about her latest yoga retreat, her new business venture, and how she was planning a vacation to Paris because she needed to recharge. I tried my best to ignore her. It was my brother's day, and I didn't want to let Linda ruin it. But then came the comment that pushed me over the edge. I was standing by the grill, helping my dad with the food, when Linda sauntered over. She looked me up and down, her face twisted in that condescending smirk she always wore when she was about to say something nasty. "Well," she said loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear, "looks like someone's been enjoying the barbecue. A little too much, huh? Maybe you should think about skipping dessert, sweetheart." I froze. For a moment, I couldn't believe she'd actually said it. I glanced around, hoping anyone, would call her out. But as usual, the family pretended not to hear. My dad busied himself with flipping burgers, and my mom suddenly became very interested in rearranging the plates on the table. That's when I snapped. I turned to Linda, my hands shaking with anger. For years, I'd let her snide remarks slide, biting my tongue for the sake of family harmony. But not this time. Not at my brother's birthday party. And certainly, not after she humiliated me in front of everyone. "Linda," I said, my voice steady but firm, "why do you always feel the need to tear other people down? Does it make you feel better about yourself?" The patio fell silent. You could hear the sizzle of the burgers on the grill and the faint laughter of kids playing in the distance. But everyone at the table was frozen, staring at me like I'd just grown a second head. Linda, of course, wasn't used to being called out. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I thought I saw a flicker of embarrassment. But then she crossed her arms and gave me that fake, saccharine smile that always made my blood boil. "Oh, honey," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I was just joking. You're being too sensitive." I wasn't about to let her gaslight me. No, you weren't joking. You were being mean, as usual. And I'm tired of it. You come to every family event and make it all about you. You insult people, act like you're better than everyone else, and then play the victim when someone calls you out. Well, not this time. Linda's smile faltered, and I could see her scrambling to regain control of the situation. I don't know why you're being so rude to me, she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound hurt. I'm just trying to have a good time and celebrate your brother. I didn't mean anything by it. Then maybe you should try thinking before you speak, I shot back. You can't keep hiding behind "it was just a joke" when you hurt people. My mom finally decided to intervene, stepping between us with her hands up like she was breaking up a schoolyard fight. All right, that's enough, she said, her voice sharp. This is supposed to be a happy day. Can we all just calm down? I looked at her, incredulous. Are you seriously defending her right now? She just insulted me in front of everyone, and you're acting like I'm the problem. It's not about taking sides, Mom said, her tone pleading now. It's about keeping the peace. You know how Linda is. Just let it go. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the same song and dance I'd endured my whole life. Linda would act out, everyone would look the other way, and I was expected to swallow my pride to keep the family from imploding. No, I said, my voice breaking a little from the sheer frustration. I'm not letting it go. I'm done letting her treat me like this. Linda, sensing an opportunity to turn the tables, sniffled dramatically. I don't know why you're attacking me like this. I've always been supportive of you. I came here to celebrate, and now I'm being ganged up on. The audacity of her words made my jaw drop. Supportive? Are you kidding me? You've spent my entire life putting me down. Don't act like you're some saint. At this point, my dad spoke up, his voice low and serious. That's enough, both of you. This isn't the time or place. I shook my head, blinking back tears of anger. Of course. Let's all just sweep it under the rug again, right? God forbid we hold Linda accountable for once. I turned and walked away, needing a moment to collect myself. My brother, bless him, followed me into the house, where I finally let the tears fall. I'm so sorry, he said, handing me a tissue. She's out of line, as always. And honestly, I'm glad you said something. Someone needed to. After cooling down inside for a few minutes with my brother, I decided to return to the party. I didn't want to ruin his birthday by disappearing or letting Linda's antics overshadow the celebration. He gave me a reassuring nod as I headed back out, and I was determined to focus on him for the rest of the evening. When I stepped outside, the atmosphere had noticeably shifted. Conversations were quieter, more subdued. My mom was bustling around the food table, looking frazzled, while my dad stood by the grill with a tense expression. Linda, meanwhile, was sitting at the patio table, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin and dramatically sighing every few seconds. The moment she saw me, she turned her chair slightly, making sure her body language screamed, "I'm the victim here." A couple of my aunts were sitting near her, patting her on the back and murmuring words of comfort. One of them glanced in my direction, her disapproval clear as day. I ignored them and went over to my brother, who was standing by the cooler. "You okay?" I asked him quietly. "Shouldn't I be asking you that?" he replied with a small laugh. "But yeah, I'm fine. Honestly, I'm proud of you for finally standing up to her. She's been like this for years, and nobody ever calls her out. It was about time someone did." His words made me feel a little better, but the tension hanging in the air was still heavy. I decided to keep my distance from Linda for the rest of the evening, focusing instead on helping my brother enjoy his party. I thought I could avoid further drama by steering clear of Linda, but I underestimated my mom's determination to restore harmony. Not long after dinner, she pulled me aside, her expression a mix of frustration and concern. "We need to talk," she said, leading me toward the side of the house where we wouldn't be overheard. I crossed my arms, already bracing myself. "What is it?" She sighed, looking at me like I was a child who had just misbehaved. "You need to apologize to Linda." My jaw dropped. Apologize? For what? For defending myself after she insulted me in front of everyone? "You didn't," Have to escalate it, she said, her tone placating. You could have handled it differently. You know how Linda is? She didn't mean any harm. I let out a bitter laugh. You're unbelievable. Every single time she pulls something like this, you make excuses for her. When are you going to stop coddling her and hold her accountable? Mom frowned. It's not about coddling. It's about keeping the family together. These kinds of fights create divisions, and that's not what your father and I want. So instead, you want me to roll over and let her walk all over me? I shot back. Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to deal with her constant belittling? How long am I supposed to just let it go for the sake of family harmony? Mom hesitated, clearly struggling to come up with a response. Finally, she said, It's not just about you, it's about everyone. Linda's fragile and she's been through a lot. If you could just apologize and smooth things over, it would mean a lot to your father and me. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. Fragile? Linda? The woman who had spent her entire life tearing others down to make herself feel superior? I'm sorry, Mom, I said, shaking my head. I'm not apologizing. Not this time. She looked at me, hurt and disappointed, but I didn't care anymore. For once, I was putting myself first. As the party wound down and guests began leaving, I noticed Linda shooting me icy glares whenever our paths crossed. I ignored her, but it was clear she wasn't going to let this go quietly. Sure enough, as my parents and I were cleaning up, after everyone had left, Linda cornered me in the kitchen. I hope you're happy, she said, her voice low and venomous. You embarrassed me in front of the entire family. I set down the plate I was holding and turned to face her. I didn't embarrass you. You embarrassed yourself. Maybe if you stopped insulting people and acting like the center of the universe, you wouldn't end up in situations like this. Linda scoffed, crossing her arms. You're just jealous because I'm successful and you're, well, you. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of her statement. If being successful means treating everyone around you like garbage, then no, I'm not jealous. I'd rather be me any day. She opened her mouth to respond, but my dad walked in before she could say anything. He gave both of us a warning look and said, Enough. This has gone on long enough. Linda huffed and stormed out, muttering something about ungrateful brats under her breath. I just shook my head, too tired to care anymore. The days following the party were tense, to say the least. I knew Linda wouldn't let the confrontation die quietly, and I wasn't wrong. By the next morning, she had already started her smear campaign. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and messages from relatives, each one more dramatic than the last. I can't believe what I'm hearing, one of my aunts exclaimed when I finally picked up her call. Linda told me you screamed at her and called her a narcissist in front of everyone. How could you be so cruel? I pinched the bridge of my nose and sighed. That's not what happened, I replied, explaining the events of the party as calmly as I could. She insulted me, and I stood up for myself, that's all. Well, you know how Linda is, my aunt said, echoing my mom's favorite excuse. She's sensitive. You could have just laughed it off instead of causing a scene. Why is it my responsibility to laugh off her insults? I countered. Why is everyone so quick to defend her, but no one cares about how she makes other people feel? There was silence on the other end for a moment before my aunt muttered, Well, you should still apologize. Family comes first. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. It didn't take long for the family to split into two camps. Those who thought I had been out of line and should apologize, and those who quietly supported me but didn't want to get involved. The latter group was smaller and less vocal, but their messages meant a lot. My cousin Melissa, who had always been one of the few people willing to call Linda out, sent me a text the day after the party. Just heard what happened at the party. Good for you for standing up to her. She's needed a reality check for years. Don't let anyone guilt you into apologizing. Her support gave me a small boost of confidence, but it didn't make the backlash any easier to handle. My mom, in particular, was relentless in her attempts to pressure me into making amends. You need to fix this, she said during a tense phone call a few days later. Linda is still upset, and this rift is tearing the family apart. Mom, the family has been torn apart for years because everyone keeps enabling her. I replied. I'm not going to apologize just to make her feel better. She needs to learn that her behavior has consequences. She's your aunt, my mom insisted. If you don't apologize, she'll never forgive you. Maybe that's for the best, I said bluntly, ending the call before the argument could escalate further. True to form, Linda wasn't content to let the situation simmer. She started posting vague, passive-aggressive statuses on Facebook about ungrateful family members and how some people can't handle the truth. While she didn't name me directly, it was obvious to anyone who knew us what she was referring to. The posts garnered a flurry of sympathy from her friends and the more gullible members of our family. Comments like, "Stay strong, Linda, you're such a kind soul, and don't let the haters get to you," flooded her posts. Melissa, bless her, couldn't resist commenting. "Kind souls don't insult their nieces at family parties. Just saying." The comment war that followed was both hilarious and exhausting to witness. It ended with Linda blocking Melissa and declaring that she was done with toxic people. A week after the party, my parents decided to hold a family meeting to try and resolve the conflict. I didn't want to go, but my brother convinced me. "If nothing else, it's a chance to finally air everything out," he said. The IU's meeting was exactly what I expected, an hour-long exercise in denial and deflection. Linda arrived late, of course, and immediately launched into a teary monologue about how hurt she was by my attack. "I've always tried to be a good aunt," she sobbed. "I've done so much for this family, and this is the thanks I get. To be humiliated in front of everyone?" I waited for her to finish before calmly responding. "Linda, you insulted me in front of everyone. All I did was stand up for myself. If you were truly hurt by that, maybe you should think about why it happened instead of playing the victim." She gasped like I'd slapped her, and my mom immediately jumped in. "Let's not point fingers," she said, raising her hands, as though to calm the room. "We're here to find a solution, not to assign blame. Maybe the solution is for Linda to stop insulting people and expecting no consequences," Melissa chimed in from her spot on the couch. Linda glared at her, but Melissa didn't flinch. "Look," I said, turning to my parents, "I understand that you want everyone to get along, but that's not going to happen if you keep enabling her behavior. I'm not going to apologize for defending myself, and I'm not going to pretend everything is fine just to keep the peace." The room fell silent. For once, Linda didn't have a snappy comeback, and my parents looked genuinely conflicted. In the weeks that followed, things were complicated. Linda stopped speaking to me entirely, which honestly was more of a relief than anything else. My parents were clearly disappointed that I hadn't apologized, but they seemed to grudgingly accept my decision. Melissa and I grew closer, bonding over our shared frustration with the family's dynamic. My brother, too, was supportive, often sending me funny memes or texts to cheer me up when the situation got too heavy. As for the rest of the family, they eventually moved on to other dramas, as families often do. Linda continued to play the victim, but her credibility took a hit after Melissa and I shared our side of the story with a few key relatives. Looking back, I don't regret standing up to Linda. For the first time in years, I feel like I took control of the narrative instead of letting her dominate it. It wasn't easy, and the fallout was messy, but it was worth it. Sometimes keeping the peace isn't worth the cost to your own well-being. And if standing up for yourself means ruffling a few feathers, so be it. What do you think? Was I right to stand my ground, or should I have apologized to keep the family harmony? Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe for more such content and share your thought in the comment.